welcome to This and That. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hello.
Hello, and if you're new here, please subscribe below and ring that bell so you know about the notifications of when we upload a new video. As you know, the off-season, we keep you guessing. And smash that like button, because we're going to really dive into a bunch of randomness this week, Jonathan. I know we were going to start with Alysa Liu, but I've tried to avoid talking to you about this, and I did make you watch a documentary that the Olympic Channel produced about one of my favorite people in all of sports.
I loved this documentary, and I have 300 million questions for you now, knowing that when we have documentaries that come out in skating about people where we really know the situation, it's always interesting how the producers choose to slant it. So I'm very excited to chat it out with you.
We delved into the life and the moods of Svetlana Khorkina. It was 22 minutes.
And the haircuts.
It could have been 2.5 hours, and I would have been just as riveted. From beginning to end.
Of just that yellow line balance beam.
The balance beam that she was doing in Red Square, posing, turning, hand through the hair, it was really a riveting.
Which seconds early, she clarified, was all for the Russian Federation and the advancement of sport.
She really felt that she was on the defense lines for Russia. And also, she basically said that Russia freed the world. I guess everyone feels...
They brought the world peace.
I guess every country feels that they won the Second World War. Because when you're in the UK, they really felt like they were the masterminds behind it. Yeah, and, no, not Germany. Although they just don't talk about it. They were like, it was an unfortunate minority.
They definitely overcompensate now.
Yeah. 1 million Schindler's List programs, right, every year. All right. So what do you want to know about Khorkina?
So what I want to know about Khorkina, I remember watching gymnastics very casually.
I don't know why you didn't get more into it, Jonathan. You are hosting and judging pageants. I mean, gymnastics is just, it's skating in the summer.
Dave, it was the lack of music. So it was never going to be as endearing to me as skating. And then if I wasn't going skating, I was just going into straight performance.
I mean, Khorkina did Carmen, by the way. She gave you Carmen.
She gave us a leggy Carmen.
Frankly, her Carmen was 10 times better than most of the skating Carmens. She died at the end and then came back to life and looked up at the audience. I mean, it was next level.
It was all a dream. Yeah, Carmen's dream. Okay.
It was seductive. I mean... she was androgynous. It was
not to be confused with Dan Hollander's Cartman program.
Right.
That was different.
That was Champions on Ice, circa 2000.
Did not die at the end. I don't recall. Okay. But so my question is, was she as? I'm curious what kind of Surya element might be in here, because I remember, as a less informed viewer, I relied heavily on the narrative that's being given by the commentators.
Yes.
I remember being devastated and feeling such injustice for all of those girls in Sydney.
She was completely...
Yeah, and then I thought, okay, they can let her do it again, but she's already... Even back then, before I was really... Well, no, I was competing then. But I thought it would have just messed you up so much for that you would have lost all momentum. They should have let everyone redo the entire thing if they wanted and put everyone's best score.
They should have. And then that's the same night that Andrea Radicon had the Sudafed and got banned for that. I mean, that was not even Meldonia. So I've never understood why Sudafed was the worst. I mean, I know we can make meth out of it, and it's hard to get at CBS, but I don't really think it was going to affect you that much. And we've talked about how cold medicine can throw off your balance. But anyway, I really felt that psychologically it devastated her. Now, interestingly enough, she did miss that same release move on bars at the team event, although she nailed it a night later. So I do think, though, that it did impact her. We'll just never know. But I think it was unfair to everyone.
Did you agree with the way they presented her in this way, that she was truly...
Yes. I mean, she was. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
She was. There are other times when she can really go off the handle and say all sorts of sometimes racist things, sometimes just over-the-top statements, but I thought that she was keeping it in check here. Her inner Pasha was kept mostly in check. Sometimes.
You could tell there was a wild energy that was currently being tamed. And I also loved, where at the end she was saying she liked how the 8 moves were named after her.
Yes.
And then when she demonstrated how they would be referred to in the gym, and she just suddenly broke character and started screaming into the camera. That was like a moment. I was like, okay, that's how training worked.
She belongs as a head coach, don't you feel? I feel that she belongs. When you saw her leading the warm-up and then still pointing through the toe, I was...
As always, she said.
Yes. I was so riveted. I think that she could damage a lot of the next generation of gymnasts, and I think that...
She clearly grew up in a pretty oppressive thing. And sometimes when they talk about these careers, I'm always more interested in a bit. Would she have started at all under a Soviet kind of...
She did, yeah. She was on the national team.
They kind of glossed right over that, and that's so intriguing to me.
She was coming into relevance right during Perestroika. 92, she was a top junior at the Junior European Championships, and she was just coming in to real supremacy. And then we started to meet her. But I love when they said that she didn't eat, so they put her in gymnastics. They didn't finish
for her.
They didn't finish that sentence with so that she would start eating. It was like, oh, she doesn't eat. She'd be perfect for gymnastics.
Yes, exactly.
Also pairs and ice dance, and now ladies, right? Like this is what it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. But see, also that's why I was intrigued because we knew a lot of communist sports sort of agencies would recruit people. So it was interesting to hear that she was not necessarily recruited, or that they let her even begin, knowing that because of her height, she might not be a factor.
Yeah, because back in those days, it was really the era where everyone was doing double back somersaults, and she was one of the first people to do twisting. Well, not one of the first people, but one of the first people to really become successful doing primarily twisting elements on floor, both forwards twisting and backwards twisting and combination twisting. They had done it a little bit in the 80s, but she really popularized that and really used the coda points to her advantage. And she kind of opened up more possibilities. Not her single-handedly, but she certainly...
was a part of that way.
Was a part of it. She combined twisting elements with leaps, and she got a lot of elements for dance points. And I think she was one of the first people to really score well on floor who wasn't a good tumbler per se, but could tumble well enough and then do enough of the dance moves and then have good enough presentation that the whole thing was scored very well. And
you know what? The statue they have of her.
Oh, yes. The most random pose of her, but she tried to sell it and be like...
You know what it reminds me of? Karen Chen's Looney program. She's got like the loon hand.
Yeah, I can see that where she had the white glove. Yeah.
Yeah, she got that from Khorkina. Look at that.
She did. I only remember that in Khorkina's last real beam routine, that stupid finger. But, I mean, I remember her doing her pivot on the beam and just everything. She's a legend. We should just bow down to her and give her all of the gold medals. But
okay, that was good to know because, again, I had to rely solely on I knew the name and I knew the narrative that was given to
she would be like Michelle Kwan if Michelle Kwan had like a really nasty attitude and told you how wonderful she was all the time.
Okay, fair enough.
I'd be like, I was robbed. Ever Olympics. It would be like,
but in a way she was.
Yes.
Yeah. So what happened when she was the silver medalist? I have to be honest, I barely remembered that American girl existed.
Yeah, that American girl who wanted to become a singer and was then on Celebrity Duets with Xena the Warrior Princess and eliminated first or second. Yeah. You know, Carly had a back injury. Her mother was allegedly dating her coach at that time. It certainly seemed like it in her TV special, the way they were speaking. Carly had a brief singing career with Joe Simpson as her manager of sorts. Joe Simpson of the Jessica Ashley Simpson is who now bats for the other team. That Joe Simpson was Carly's come up in the music industry. She was one of the first Sasha Cohen types that really wanted to use the Olympic gold medal to springboard into something else unrelated. And of course... knowing that
what happened in the competition itself? Like,
was she honestly, Khorkina just got... I mean, she claims that her vault should have been scored higher. I think overall the result was probably correct, though disappointing. Okay. I mean, it was close, and she was still a great gymnast, but 2000 was really her peak. So she really had I remember Bella Caroli said, she's starving, forcing herself to throw up whatever she's doing to be out here at this point. I mean, she was 25. She was no longer in her prime fitness. She was incredibly emaciated to the point where her lines were starting to look a little scary. It was a very desperate Zoe Jones type of moment. Like she was long in the tooth, long in the tooth. There were no tattoos yet, but it was just like, oh, you're still out there. Eat some avocados. It would help you look a little more pleasant. But yes, are you taken by her? Are you intrigued?
Yeah, I mean, and I always was. There was kind of an energy, like an air about her that let you know that she knew she was better than everyone else, and she was striving for something beyond.
And she was.
The people around
her.
So I was intrigued if that was rooted in legitimate.
It really was. She was much more innovative than they were. You could say someone could be more powerful, or someone could do different types of elements, but she really combined things and finesse really well, and she lasted for so long that you have to give respect to the queen.
Okay,
so
I found it a very interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah, she was no Oksana Bayul flash in the pan, okay? She was here to stay, okay? Anyway, another gymnastics news, Ashton Locklear did retire this week. Not a huge surprise, but she was one of the ones who just missed out on the Olympics last time, Jonathan, and she was kind of...
I was like, okay.
She had a safe sport violation and announced that she was a Nassar victim all at the same time. She was potentially taken for bullying. It was all sorts of... Just an interesting figure in competitive sports. She... thought that she was going to be... So in gymnastics, you have to decide if you're going to accept money or if you're going to get a free college education, and they took the money even though she didn't make the Olympics. So it was a really curious decision. I mean, she did tour for all of 3 months, but just one of those real head-scratchers. So I believe there might have been like a weird homeschooling situation where you don't know if the credits are going to be accepted. So just one of those important things that education... Reminder, education is important.
Correct.
Yeah, because now she is retired, no Olympics. To speak of, we don't really know who she is. And,
Best of luck.
Best of luck. You're like...
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. But let's talk about this Alysa Liu article.
Yes, I found it fascinating.
I thought Alysa came off charming.
Mm-hmm.
13-year-old. But they clearly... don't have much to write about. She's 13 and nice.
Right.
And cute. Not the most...
So each of those paragraphs became really spread out, like showing how cutesy and young she was kind of took a while. I was like, yeah, we got it. Let's keep moving.
But you realize the father is really the star of this situation.
Well, and I don't know what is known or what is not known.
Yeah. I mean... It's known that he's gay. It said it.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I just panicked and I was like, I would never want to out someone.
But do you notice that it's disappearing more and more in the articles that he's gay?
It's dodgy. This article in particular, was taking leaps to avoid that kind of, because they were talking about egg donors and they were talking about...
And he seems to have a partner or boyfriend, but it wasn't the partner that he did the egg donoring with. We learn a little bit more, and we really have to track each article for this because they never give you the full story.
I think the narrative should just be to be transparent from the get-go.
I mean, we didn't... I'm so curious that he was married to a woman before, and first of all, wait. He was married to a woman when they used egg donors to have children?
Yeah, that's why I was getting very confused in the article.
Because he wanted to have half-white kids. He said because it was more culturally inclusive. He's a curious person. This article made me go like... So not only do we have a father who is like pushing his daughter into competitive figure skating and gave her a different designer egg than everyone else. Was he thinking about skating at the time? We know he was a Michelle Kwan fan.
And so to include a very fascinating comment when he said, we don't know how to track who the biological mother is, and it's too bad knowing that these genes run through her. Or it was, basically like...
Are you getting that? Like, I've always wanted to find the Anne Patrice fluff piece from one of the Junior Worlds, because she was in 2 Junior Worlds, and only one of them is online. But the one that we really want to see, where her mother talks about going to Korea and picking her out to become a successful skater. That seems something that like would seem like normal in Asian countries to like say that, like because it's kind of like they're so competitive about getting into high school and it's just so culturally accepted. Where here we cry over things more. I think here it starts to feel a little bit more
transactional.
Joseph Goebbels experiment.
Well, or a bit like Handmaid's Tale, this kind of your job is to breed an incredible figure skater. I don't know, it got really weird for me. Maybe that's just because of the news.
I know. Anyone who's at that rink, we definitely want to know about the other siblings. What are they like? They seem nice. I get the vibe that they have the upper hand with this coach, and that's why they perhaps like it.
Well, what I think is great about this coach, and let's talk this out. Wait, hold on. I still have this from yesterday. Let's hash it out. Okay.
Yes.
I'm curious. She seems very happy, and she seems to have a very positive relationship with skating right now. Even on Instagram, Zach Donahue was doing Instagram stories from Stars on Ice, and they're in Portland, and it's the last performance. And she's rolling around on the ice, and she's having fun, and she's giggling.
She's still a kid, yeah.
Yeah, she's a kid, but with a positive relationship with skating, where we know that other camps, it's not so positive, but they are still able to, they're able to yield these incredible results. So I'm fascinated if this coach is worth keeping around, if it keeps skating light, because it's going to become so dark and heavy and burdensome.
And we know that they've sent everyone to work with her. I mean, Frank has been working with her. Tom Dixon has worked with her. Lori's doing the programs this year. She was just with Brian Orser for a month. We know that the father is very into the game. I mean, he got her signed up with Yuki this year. They're getting all these articles are from that. Don't, kid yourself here. They seem to have the machine working. We saw her on Jimmy Fallon. The NBC train is behind her. I'm sure it is only a matter of time before the next year we see a fluff piece of her father with the protests in Tiananmen Square, because that seems to be a narrative this is heading. If not now, then certainly for the Olympics. They want Alysa Liu there with the father telling that story on TV, like the new Bob Costas. It's all
shrouded in secrecy still. He was saying in the article, he was alluding to the fact that he still feels like he's being
This is NBC's wet dream, and NBC unofficially does have pull with the USOC and USFS, because they all are in these joint revenue sharing agreements with the way that the structure works, getting figure skating onto TV, because they're not making money off of it like they used to. They're not like paying rights. It's kind of more of a and we've seen, I imagine NBC wanted Adam at those Olympics over Ross Minor. He had much more of a personality. They want stars like that. I'm sure they would have liked Ashley to be there, but she wasn't, and they probably also don't mind the drama of someone being left off. But I think in the men's event,
well, and then again, it's interesting, like the way. Well, I shared that article with you about how Twitter world can seem like the real world, and it's so not the real world, and this sort of stuff. Oh my gosh, Dave, I totally just lost my train of thought. I was like 10 steps ahead, and I started...
You were talking about Twitter seeming like the real world. You were talking about...
Yeah, but why did I bring that up?
Well, we're talking about Alysa Liu and how she's raising...
Oh, the way we get in trouble sometimes for talking about America's track record with women, or Phil Hirsch used to get slammed all the time for bringing that up. And
it's facts.
Just threw the women under the bus. They were like, and that Olympics was dreadful. 9, 10, 11, worst ever. We need Alysa Liu. And
I think... in the main sports world, Ashley's silver medal at a Worlds means nothing.
Right.
Because they don't even remember it. It was like it happened maybe once. And they would say one medal in all those years, right? Like it's not... and it's been how many Olympics since 2006, since a medal, and look where skating was. I took it as skating used to be a cool thing. There were other subtle hints in that, the way that article was written in the diction, that it actually, it made me notice a little gay gasp going on, where they said, for those uninitiated in skating. Like, it was now an obscure reference. It's not even, like, gymnastics isn't written about as an uninitiated person. Skating is now that niche, obscure activity that we once loved, and now we are so... And they were talking about
too specialty. It's too specialty to just talk about.
It has fallen so far. And when we are talking about, when we do all these great shows on Patreon, this is all when skating was relevant and flourishing and fun and accessible, and it's fallen so far and so niche that it was really quite striking. And at the same time, they say how bad skating is, and in the tours, it certainly, as Kurt Browning said about how awful it is in the U.S. and how he doesn't know how the promoters make any money at Stars on Ice. And that recent article that was in Edmonton, I have to say, though, Meryl did win a gold medal. Nathan's been successful. And though
Phil talked about this once in an interview where he said, a gold medalist in ice dance just isn't the same.
It isn't.
As a singles.
So we were talking in our Patreon show yesterday about how, Christy not going back for 94 and why, wouldn't she do that? But back then I was thinking, her dream was to be a show skater, the star of a show production. That doesn't exist anymore, right? Like, and what they did and created with even that tour to be the star of a production and skate all these numbers and have fun, the joy and beauty of skating, like that doesn't exist. These tours are now slapped together in a matter of days. They look like half-assed. They don't even promote them. They rely on the skaters to do it on social media. And when Meryl and Charlie won the goal now is, after you win the gold, it's not like the gold and onward like it used to be. It used to be you won the gold and you went on to the professional lights and you're Dorothy Hamill.
Like you said, the springboard.
The springboard.
Yeah.
Now it's a springboard-ish, but you have to scrap and claw and sell mattresses on Instagram and pillows, and you do Dancing with the Stars to get your relevancy, and then maybe you go on those
But even
tours.
that is not as relevant as it once was.
Yeah, and even Meryl there is one of the more exceptions, right? Like, Meryl won as the show was still relevant, although it's now, the show is way long in its tooth. Adam won, and he didn't go on a tour with dance. He's not even doing Stars on Ice this year, because that's telling too. Adam Rippon is one of the biggest names in skating in the U.S. who could certainly be relevant, especially if skating went to the more liberal cities. And he now makes his money with his book and doing appearances, but not skating.
Anything but skating.
He doesn't need skating. He can be so bold that he doesn't have to go on Stars on Ice. And even though he's still technically with the same agency, they're not forcing him to do the tour. To save it. Well, that would be considered too embarrassing and lowbrow for him.
And this new following, they're not following him because they're fans of the skating. They're following him because they're fans of this projected personality, right? So
yes.
You wouldn't necessarily think you're getting that by going to see him at an exhibition in Hershey.
What I think they should do, besides pay Adam all of the money, but they don't want to invest. They don't want to invest in these tours anymore because I don't think they believe it's possible. And then maybe you have to bring in a new team, and Byron has to change, because you have to build things before people come, and they are just trying to extract every last cent and keep these people. They're not even trying to make the money off the tours. They're trying to just keep people at IMG so that they can make the money off of Ashley Wagner's tire ad when it comes, or Nathan Chen's commercial for Visa, because they get more of a percentage for those type of things probably than their tours. They may get a bigger percentage when the skaters do shows in Asia, but someone like Ashley, how's she making money now as a professional? She doesn't seem to really love coaching. She has to do her commentary gigs, her, shows in Asia while she's relevant, still do some shows here, and you kind of piecemeal together a living, but it's certainly very difficult and for the few. So it's sad.
And it doesn't seem like that many people are able to do like what Tim did and just start a whole new career.
I mean, Tim wasn't a good show skater, and again, that's another problem that maybe he stayed in too long, and maybe, going into, he didn't really have a professional career. So yeah,
But he wasn't still then trying to live solely afterwards on skating connections. He just full-blown started a brand new career and maintained a presence in skating community.
Yeah.
But didn't rely on it solely as trying to find gigs and income.
And there's nothing wrong with that. This sport does need enough people to still stay involved to keep flourishing and moving. And I mean, it's a little depressing. I thought when that article said, but yeah, I think that this narrative about him and the egg donor and China and I mean, they're getting the book ready. They're getting I would imagine they're getting, hoping that he will, make it to the Olympics with her and have that narrative in prime time. I mean, I do think that it'll be a huge story if he doesn't. Yeah. They are grasping the narrative of Alysa Liu, and hopefully it seems like she's primed to at least do well for this year. I think I would expect her to do well in the Junior Grand Prix as far as...
It will give attention to a Junior Grand Prix when certainly in the United States there would never be an article written about it.
Yeah, and you know what? I have to think she helps the Junior Grand Prix keep important too, because she's now a factor in the Junior Grand Prix. I don't think the viewers will go away, but the last couple years, you have to think, a couple years ago, it was all about Rika Kihira, Marin Honda. They were getting tons of views for the Junior Grand Prix, and it really has kind of more moved to Russia with, Trusova, Shcherbakova. They're going senior. So they'll have new faces from Russia who can be successful, but they're still growing, and perhaps, Kamila Valieva. But Alysa Liu is kind of a new person to keep the Junior Grand Prix alive. And you constantly need that stream.
How do you see those chances going for her? I mean, to me, she strikes me on the outside as someone who could potentially make the Junior Grand Prix final, but would not maybe be in the top three.
I mean, we haven't seen how Alyssa's going to stack up against them. I think there's so much work to do in the skating skill department. Not that the other ones don't, but I think that Kamila Valieva has been packaged more for the look.
Well, I would put her in the top three for that Junior Grand Prix final.
I think Alysa should compete well as long as the pressure doesn't get to her, because they are pushing her the way Yuki does with her. She gets Nathan out and she gets Gracie out in the public. They just not everyone can handle that, right? So with Alysa, it'll be interesting to see, but I think it's good that she goes to the Junior Grand Prix before the senior. She has time to kind of work out her jumps and her nerves before people become overly excited, because she has a lot of growth to do, and at least the technical points will save her in the meantime, right? Like, as long as she can land stuff, the fact that she has a lot of work to do skating-wise, that's time. But I think the fact that they're with Lori this year is the smart move. Hopefully they have Lori making repeat visits and things like that. But yeah, they need to work that. It's a little scary that she's...
It seems like the priorities, though, in the skate, like, they are doing it right. They're doing what it needs.
Yeah, I mean, they have her working with Brian Orser and Tracy on the Edge class and things like that. But yeah.
Which we saw that clip of.
Yeah, what did you make of that? What did you think?
That was a very interesting thing. It's neat that video existed. Mm-hmm. Like, I was fascinated that they took the time to make that, and it was obviously for a Chinese audience.
Yes.
We were just relying on the surtitles. I couldn't quite understand Brian's energy in the interview, because he would say something, again, that they're always being prompted by the producer. Yes. Oh, Brian, what is the difference between working with North American skaters and Chinese skaters? And he said, the skaters in Toronto are love skating.
Yes.
And then he goes, and these Chinese skaters seem pretty keen to work hard too.
So because I think it's not a choice, it's more of a... Yeah. It's not necessarily their choice. They're selected to skate, right? And we've heard about how the male skater who's supposed to come back, Hanyan. Remember, he wanted to quit for a while, but he wasn't really allowed to quit. And then now he seems to want to come back. It's more of a...
Or it's being forced again.
Yeah.
Because, for that team event, I don't know.
Brian has a unique energy. I don't know how everyone will do that.
I hope he was just jet lagged or something when he did it, because I was surprised he seemed...
Is he slightly Eeyore-ish? That's what I've always wondered about him. He always seems...
Yeah, which would coincide with the energy I was getting, because I would think, now that I'm teaching more...
He seems extremely nice, and that nothing... but he is not your Raphael energy, and some skaters need that energy.
Or what a Tracy or a Sandra may tell you in the same kind of interview. Tracy being like, there's a lot of hardworking people here. They're eager to learn. They're trying so hard. They really take what we say seriously, and it's great to see them
Tracy's
grow.
just wonderful. She is just... I would skate with her every day to an hour with Tracy, and I think your skating would be next level, right?
And so would your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Your soul would be okay about skating. So, I'm intrigued. It was interesting to hear from some of those Chinese athletes. Because
I do worry, though, about... And we saw this last year, too, and, Brian did lose some students, with especially Gogolev, because they wanted more attention in the rink, and this is always a push and pull, because you have to take the money when you can get it. But going to China 5 times, or 6 seminars in a year to work with them, I mean, China has the kind of money they could fly those skaters to the cricket club, first of all. It would be more money, but...
And a mountain of paperwork for them, I'm sure.
Yeah, but... that takes Brian out of Toronto a lot. I mean, yes, he will be, while his top skaters are in shows, it's certainly a great opportunity. It gives him something to do. It's a great time to go, especially with Evgenia and Yuzu, and Yuzu isn't spending the full year in Toronto. I just wonder, when you're developing up-and-coming skaters and talents and which ones are going to stay with him, it seems curious that he spends so much time away from the rink, because he goes to every Junior Grand Prix and he goes to every, seminar now in China, and you have to wonder, and every nationals, when is he doing the real hands-on work with the skaters? It's just curious to me. I think it's and perhaps he's needs new challenges. He could be a little tired of the day-to-day grind in that way, but it seems like a little bit of a miscalculation to be spending that much time away from the rink when it seems like there is a lot of work to be done.
So the way you view Brian's coaching, do you view it more as this like hands-on Dudikovi kind of role? Or do you view it as Ateri, the face of the brand?
Well, I think Ateri is the face but does more hands-on. But I think
like
Brian...
Like a Molcher type even.
I think Brian is hands-on, especially with Evgenia, but I think he's certainly capable of being hands-on. But I think Yuzu seems very self-motivated, right? I don't think that they have to do... I think he has to do more managing than coaching with him, if that makes sense. Like, he has to more direct him rather than push him. I think with Evgenia, there's a lot more thought work in there. And we know with Jason, they're using Karen Preston, and they're using...
who we talked about extensively this weekend.
Yeah. And, and Tracy works a lot with him, but it seems like it's more managerial. It's becoming more Nina Moser-ish than in the weeds like Frank Carroll. And I don't know. I think...
Yeah, I wonder if, aside from what I would hope is a nice financial reward, I wonder what they get out of that. Does that strengthen pull with the Chinese Federation in general for him?
I don't think... Not to say that Brian and Tracy aren't great. I think that they certainly have a lot of merit. But I just wonder what these... at least they're going back so many times that the skaters can work on these things.
Learn the concept with
the funny thing is, a lot of the stuff that he was working on with those skaters were things that I saw him do with Doug Ha as their drill. And Doug went to China with them, actually, to work. So they did have a lot of people working with those skaters. It just seemed curious. They're going to learn techniques, and I'm sure with Sui and Han, there's not a lot of new things that they're going to learn. So if they can impart 1 or 2 things that they learned from him, that could be huge.
She was talking about some of the jumps, helping them see what was happening. Was interesting
because Sui and Han have to get the triple toe, keep that triple sal consistent, and maybe a combination. But there are going to be people that will be pushing them technically.
And again, I think the Chinese Federation is clearly taking all the right steps that they can to really build this program. And so I think a lot of this is going to be the coaches watching them. That's where the real education is happening. And again, the same thing happens in like a singing lineage. There's so much to be learned for the teacher to watch another teacher.
Maybe they'll bring in a spin coach, Jonathan, because that's been a recurring theme with the Chinese.
I've heard, where did I hear that recently? But I think they're trying to take the right steps, and
I imagine Tracy's edge class and even Brian's theory on Brian has a real theory about jump combinations and what you do with the leg as it swings back. I think that could be really beneficial. His axle theory, that could really make an impact.
I'm very curious what happened to Liu Chen and Denis Petrov.
They have a school.
They have a school, and we really hear nothing about it. Obviously, Denis was pretty and knew how to skate because he came under that system.
He was gorgeous.
Right? I mean, it obviously showed.
If Mama Yamaguchi could have brought him in, Christy could have won gold in both, honey.
Yeah, exactly. In both Olympics. No, absolutely not. But okay.
She could have been lifted up. We don't even know. She could have been lifted in the Stars on Ice show by Denis across the rink and then skated her solo coming back. I mean,
right. Amazing.
I mean, did you ever see those numbers when Christy did pairs in 01 and 02 on tour? I mean, it was amazing. And it was supposed to be a trio with her.
I have not seen those. Who was lifting her?
Denis. And they did it with Jenny Mino. But it was originally planned with Katya, Christy, and Denis. And they even did like a triple camel spin that you would have seen like in the fours and the shows from back in the day. But they didn't wind up doing that. But they were doing some next level stuff.
Oh, I have to go back and rewatch that. Okay.
Yeah. They did a really gorgeous number to both sides now, the Joni Mitchell number, and they had, obviously maybe Jenny and Christy with the different sides, I guess, but the next year, because this was when Alina Bechke wasn't on the tour, so they had to find things for Denis to do, but they also had Denis and Christy skate a pair number her last year on the tour, to Come Fly Away. It was stunning. It was next level Christy Yamaguchi. Yeah.
I love that, literally, because she was on a higher level. But I'm curious. I think that he and Liu Chen would probably, I don't know who knows how to teach what they were able to do, but
they would have knowledge to bring into the system for sure.
Yeah. It seems unusual why they're so far apart from this.
Shen and Zhao seem intense, right? They seem...
Yeah, but you would think that, I mean, with their non-existent ladies program, why not have Liu Chen? I know she's been out and about recruiting at times, but I don't know what happened.
And Pang and Tong have a school as well, but they're more on the provincial level. It's always a little bit confusing how the national skating system works there, but...
And I do this thing now with my students that come from various countries. My way to assess them is to always ask which skaters from those countries they have or have not heard of.
Oh!
Because you never know, in the fact that we all know who Adam Rippon is, who never placed in a prominent position at Worlds, but no one would know who Vincent is, and he just won a bronze, And I have several Chinese students, and none of them know any of the skaters. Oh. It broke my heart. One knew Jin Boyan. That was it.
Well, I was at the coffee house, which is Korean, in my town, and I said, my friend is going to direct you this show. And the person nearly passed out. That was...
Yeah, now every Korean student I ever had, I was like, now, Kim? And they're always like, oh my gosh, of course. Yeah, no question on that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then I'll ask them about the current crop, and they're like, no, we don't know who they are.
No. Yeah. So, you need to keep that pipeline coming of relevancy. So
exactly.
I'm excited for Yuna's show. I think it'll be good. I can't wait to cover it. It's A-list all the way. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now,
speaking of show videos, you tell me, Dave.
Well, what do you want to... Oh, I was thinking that we could go into Alena Kostornaia's new music because... Da-da-da, da-da-da. It reminds me of... very minor keyed Eric Radford. You said it sounds like Eric Radford's Moonlight Sonata, perhaps, and you could...
Yeah, his version. It's a lot of open arpeggios, lots of seconds. It's very moody, and then all of a sudden in comes...
You said the kazoo, right?
Yeah, it had a very kazooey kind of
I think it was a bandeon / kazoo.
Yeah,
but
I put them about in the same category.
I'm imagining a step sequence, and then she kind of stops. Da-da-da. Right? That look up. Don't you see it in show lights with a smoke machine?
Intense storytelling will be happening.
It's called No One Ever Called Me That. It sounds almost like No One Gives Up on Love. It seems like it's just going to...
Yeah, no one ever called me that. And I just want her to always say it in interviews is, no one ever called me that. And it's like this whole Defiant program or something. But it's going to be an old cabaret prostitute smoking a cigarette who's dealing with some horrible,
Where did it all go wrong?
Yeah. At age 15.
I hope it's a little bit campy. It's going to be very Danny G vegan-ish. But I at least hope that we get some next level things. Those young Instagram followers like F Skating World or whatever are going to be loving every move, of it and talking about.
I'm glad it thrills them.
Yes, it really does.
I'm glad they're finding joy in that in the way I found joy in Michelle running forward in 1990.
They don't see the same thing.
Totally the same.
But I'm very curious what we think about this music.
It was exactly what I would have expected. I think it's all a little bit interchangeable, so they could say it's from whatever or called whatever, but they all basically carry the same idea. And again, we can hear it in these pauses in the music. It would be like...
So now that Game of Thrones is ending, you know how, I don't know if you go on Facebook, but the day after a Game of Thrones episode, every white person has to analyze the episode and what it meant to them the night before, especially if they're in a certain age range, and it's a lot to take in. Are we still going to have to pretend that True Siva's Game of Thrones program is great, or that this Twilight program that Kostornaia did, that one with the cape, that it's
upsetting.
That's going to be her short program this year.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to remember their ages, and I hope that maybe some of these choices are really because they want to do it. Mm-hmm. Although I think Danny's the 14-year-old girl at heart that's loving all these tween dramas that just wants to do it.
He loves that Gucci sweater that we see him in all the time.
A new Gucci hoodie appeared, too.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
But we have Mariah Bell doing Work Bitch. That isn't going to make it out of Champs Camp. They wouldn't let Adam do his cover of Diamonds when he went to Champs Camp. They didn't approve that. I can't imagine. How is it going to be? Next on the eyes, Belle Mariah-san, Work Beach. How is that going to go?
Yeah, it's going to be yeah. Well, is it going to be a medley of something? She'll just have to title it something different. In the same way they never said. Did they ever say Tanya? It's just a 92 sort of.
I think they say Work. I think it's going to be called Work, right? But
yeah, because in the same way they would have to do it on certain radio stations, I suppose. But did they never call Tanya's music "People Are Still Having Sex"?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of hope it
Mariah
works.
Bell. It made me think of this is what people feared when lyrics were allowed. That this was going to happen.
So this was that just bottom level we were talking about. Rock bottom.
Basement. Yes.
Yeah, the basement. Well, and I love back to the Alyssa article that Mariah Bell was she's inspiring me to do triple axels.
And we used to see, remember when we used to see her do it on the harness in 2015? Mariah Bell working it with Vincent Restoncourt back in the day.
But I loved when Doug Haw was if you say the word harness, I'm completely just crossing you off. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I mean, we've seen Gracie Gold do basic triples in the harness recently. So,
yeah, it was just kind of.
Although she did do a triple toe that was stalked, yet had clean, real execution, they seem to be taking a step back. That article, it seems like they're coming down to reality in Gracie world about when she's going to compete again and what this comeback is all about.
Well, NBC Sports loves covering this for some reason, or they are continually convinced to cover it. And I just feel like I read the same article every day about her.
Yeah, no one and you don't hear any of the important things. We don't hear Grace is working with a therapist and a sports psychologist every week to get better, or a performance coach or a life coach and a therapist. We don't hear that kind of a thing. We still hear that she's trying to get back into shape, although it does look like perhaps she is trying now and committing, because it doesn't seem like it doesn't feel like she's believed it 100%. That's been a theme that we have said, and you could kind of hear it in the article that they've kind of been seeing where it goes. Because I think and then she said, sometimes being in shape makes you feel more confident on the ice, which is 100% correct. So it seems like they're at least kind of starting to get priorities in order about getting in shape and getting the drilled down technique before forcing her out with some cheated combination that she couldn't do at the Grand Prix in Russia. But yeah, I think she has about a year. I was thinking she has about a year to kind of
perpetuate this story. Yeah.
Well, keep working, make progress, slow and steady, and then I think next year is when she'll really have to start, like 2020, 2021, that's when she'll really have to start competing and making a move if she wants to do something. So I think she has about a year to kind of be a mess and fall in the rink a million times.
What would make me believe this could really happen is if we didn't hear anything.
Yeah. Like if
she went radio silent and then all of a sudden she appears a year and a half later after none of these.
But she doesn't seem to be the one courting the press. It seems to be the people around her.
Right. But further indication that priorities are in an unusual place.
But I think it's possible and at least feels slightly more realistic based on the kind of quotes that we're hearing, but I'm certainly not counting on it, but it seems like it's like slight moves in the right direction, and I think it's going to continue to be a long journey with her. But I think that if she were able to get a couple triples down and do a show in 6 months, that would be a great accomplishment if she could do a real performance, and I think that certainly is possible, and then build up from there. But that's what we've been saying all along. Like, it needs to be a real deliberate, slow and steady process, and it seems like they just completely rushed it. So
it seems chaotic and unorganized.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But that seems to be the Vincent special. So
and that's the method. Okay.
But she doesn't sound miserable, so that seems helpful. So.
A step in the right direction.
Yeah. I think it's going to be slow and steady. Again, like when you feel better, then all of a sudden you can do better on the ice, then you want to skate more, then you want to do more and more sessions, then you want to get programs together, then you want to really do it for real. And I think that could be happening, hopefully. Otherwise, it'll just kind of wither away. But yeah. Hopefully we don't see any forced appearances on the Grand Prix that are tough to watch. So, yeah. It's just troubling how many people think it's like a Band-Aid. Like, she went for treatment once and everything is going to be magically better. Like, no, that's a lifelong process. It's like if you have diabetes, you have to take your blood sugar every day and your insulin, and you have to work at your mental health.
And it's not really something you just fix, you know. So the other thing is, you know, let's say she comes back full force. It's a very different field than when she left.
Yeah. She still is incredibly powerful and incredibly dynamic on the ice when she jumps. So it's not like I think she would need a quad. I don't think she's in any danger of maybe winning the individual Olympics, but I think if she could do a triple Lutz, triple toe and still have power, they would score her very well because we don't see someone jump with that kind of height other than perhaps Tsumi Shiba.
Yeah.
And she still has a lot more of the aesthetic than the other people do. And I wonder if, you know, we've seen clips of Rika's new program for next season. We won't be posting them. But I think, if Rika and other skaters keep pushing the artistry away from just this Danny G clutter that we see in the Atari camp, I think that maybe we'll start to see some of the components evened out a touch, perhaps, I hope. And then someone that has really great triples and has some skating skills and performance ability could perhaps do better. Because the way it's currently skewed, if you can do a lot of jumps and a lot of poses, you'll
be fine.
Well, yeah, because I was talking to a skater who's been on the show, and they were talking about they saw Canadian Stars on Ice and American Stars on Ice, but they were saying that Medvedeva is really kind of the weakest skater in the group numbers just in terms of skating skills. Right. Like, it's just apparent that she is kind of weaker than the other skaters at skating skills. And I thought that was kind of interesting and telling, you know.
Even after all this work. Because this is probably the finest level she's been at with her students.
And next to someone, I mean, and she's a little injured right now, we know, but next to someone like Osmond and the other skaters, there's, you know, a noticeable difference. So I thought that was something that's telling. There's a lot of work to do. So
yeah. And she did, I saw because they were posting clips from that. Was that Japan Stars on Ice?
Japan and Canada, yeah. Japan, she did shows in, and then she did it in Canada as well.
Oh, I thought it was a Japan show that I was watching, and she like picked up the rose from next to the camera. And she picked up the rose. I was like, next, I'm not watching the rest of this.
So it was. I saw the clip where someone asked her about how, whether or not she should retire, and then she said, "Yes, that's what my haters say." Not hating at all. I wonder what the future looks like. How strong she can get, what reality is.
Let's say there's something bigger at play here, which would be she wants to learn all these skating skills, and then she can go back to Russia and start her own camp where she incorporates all the things she has learned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide right now, and unfortunately, like as a teenager, what am I asking her to take on? But if she's truly a student of the sport and has a passion for learning about skating in general, I don't know. I could see this still behooving her, even if the results betray her a little bit, to learn all of these things and bring that back to a system that would really benefit from her having it.
Yeah, I think she'll have to do a lot of off ice too, and in the right way to kind of build up some things to improve the skating skills on the ice and things like that. It seems like maybe extension through her legs. She's capable of doing nice spirals, but we don't always see her hold them. And I think a lot of work with Tracy in the off season will be really beneficial. To do that, it's going to depend on how much time they have, right? Some of these skaters do a lot of shows to make the money now, but that does take away from your potential training. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see where it goes. And even Jason Brown, he's going to have a tough season next year too, because he's now against Tomoki, who's working with Tom Dixon. He's going to be against, I'm pretty sure Tomoki's with Tom Dixon. He just announced his music. Tomoki, Vincent, and Nathan. To make that team, that's not going to be an easy task. They've said that the quad is coming, and Jason has more diehard fans than anyone, but we've heard that the quad is coming every single year now for 5 years? 6? 5, 6? Right? I don't know that I'm holding my breath that it'll happen, but he at least has to do a clean, long program. I think Schindler's List.
And Tomoki has a lot of momentum working in his favor right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be tough. That's a tough men's field in the U.S. So
yeah.
Not to say that he can't. He can certainly outperform probably anyone. But
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was enjoying his program to your musical suggestion.
Oh, yeah. That one. That wasn't the specific song I was thinking from Dear Evan Hansen, but yeah, it was a nice look for him. It was very on brand. So
yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah.
And I loved that Shoma did that program with, gosh, I don't know what it was, where he had his face painted.
Yeah, that's been his exhibition this year. We haven't really covered the exhibition.
Yeah, I have to tell you, sometimes when we're, recapping and things like that, it's such like a frenzied race.
We usually recap before or while the exhibition is going on. We don't have time to do that at all.
I feel sad that I've been missing out on this because I found it very enjoyable.
Oh, yes. This one was very nice.
Yeah, unexpected. When the Time After Time program was just sort of generically lovely. Mm-hmm. But this one was very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And much more this kind of edgy thing I want from him.
He is capable of really doing some... I hope they just don't go classical with him next year and they push something.
Yeah, because it's lovely, but we've seen that. I want that edge back. Because, again, the way he can move, it could work so to his benefit to do something.
Imagine if he worked with Tom Dixon and they came up with some crazy storyline.
Well, I was thinking about it because at first I thought, is someone like Benoit cool? And I thought, no, Benoit is like skating cool. Like, I want him with an actual modern dancer. And I was like Shaylin? And I was like, no, even I think Shaylin is a bit too skating-y for him. Like, he needs someone from just the dance world to do something with him, I think. Maybe even like a Benji Schwimmer program.
Benji Schwimmer, yes.
Like outside of the box that way.
Travis Wall, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's capable of a lot, so we'll have to...
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of the jumping and...
I know. So give me the dancing instead.
Yeah. But still, one of the greatest performers on the ice. So
yeah. Now, what did you think of the Honda sisters?
I was hoping that Marin would be...
We always are, Dave. We always are.
I thought she would be motivated by like a real rough 18 months, 2 years of underachievement and be back in full force. But what I've noticed from her in her show skating the last 2 years is just a physical weakness. It looks like she is not really that strong in her core to really make her technique happen. And she seems like Liu Chen in a way where getting the rotation is more of a challenge for her and to get that snap. And it just doesn't seem like she has the core and upper body strength to really make it happen. And they're pretty jumps, but they're not impactful.
Didn't the start of the program almost have this like light Karen Kadavi quality to it? Like at first I didn't realize what the music was. It was, just sort of plainly lovely in the beginning, and she's just a breath of fresh air when you see her start that way.
Yeah.
And then inevitably lets you down, even in an exhibition, because it's not really going to happen.
Yeah, I feel it's depressing, but I think she can go into show skating, modeling, and acting. I feel like that's the way that this is kind of going, where...
And I would love to watch her in a show. Like, the skating skills are still so beautiful at times, and the positions she hits are so lovely. So.
But it doesn't look like the commitment is there. So, and the
Not
sister...
for what it would take now.
The sister, Sarah, is adorable, but do you kind of get Mia Hamada version of an Atari student, where the triples are cheated and pushed before she really has mastered the technique or is really ready for them?
It looked very junior-ish.
Yeah.
And also that, like, kind of eking them out. Yeah.
It's a little depressing. So basically, to close, we need to live life like Khorkina, do our balance beam on the the yellow line.
Red square, yellow line.
Square, and keep pushing forward. And Arthur Liu, yes. Yeah, what is the story with the mom, and why is the mom so out of the narrative? Like, does Arthur have... It doesn't even sound like Arthur has sole custody because they see her a couple days a week. That was more than I expected. The mystery continues about this. This is...
We've got to investigate.
Yeah, how does he get like complete credit for her? And the mother is just there? I mean, they didn't show her at the Nationals.
Right.
But it doesn't sound like they have a bad relationship with her. Again, weird. Yeah. And is this just patriarchal society of China? Like, what is happening there with that situation? Was anyone else a little, with that article? And, if you got the Letitia Hubert video, props to you. If you didn't, well, it's 2019.
Again, she had a sense of humor about it. That's why
she did.
And some people are taking it. But
yeah. Okay. But anyway, hold an edge. Look sexy. Bye, guys.
Okay.